What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we've got another mini series starting. This is part 1 of the Firecrawl series where we're going to actually be doing a live build in the next video about how we can actually apply this tool into a practical context. But today we're going to be going over some of the specifics about what it can do and the use case that I found it best for my specific case with AI automation. So the fastest way to find an AI automation client is not to build a smarter Apollo filter. It's to look at companies who are publicly admitting they have a problem and then offer to fix it for less than the cost of the hire that they are about to make. Now, almost every AI automation agency I see is targeting the wrong layer of data. They build lists based on company size, industry, and their tech stack. And those are firmographic signals. They tell you what a company looks like, and they tell you nothing about whether the company is ready to pay for what you sell. But there's a much better signal sitting on Seek if you're in Australia, or Indeed, and LinkedIn job listings every single day. Companies that are actively recruiting for admin operations, bookkeeping, or sales support roles are openly announcing that they have manual work piling up faster than their team can handle it. Now they're about to spend $40,000 to $80,000 a year to throw a human at the problem. But you can come in and scrape those listings, contact them directly, and offer to solve the same problem for a one-time 5-figure build. That is literally the entire pitch, and that is this entire video. Now, if you're new here, my name is Dominic Schwantes. I'm the founder of Workflows, a B2B AI lead generation agency. I document everything I do in real time, the campaigns, the systems, and the results. And what you'll find in this document is based on what actually works, not just some theory. So let's have a look at the buying signal hierarchy. So there are 3 main layers of data that you can build a B2B lead list from, but they're not equal. The first layer is firmographic data, such as company size, industry code, location, employee count, and tech stack, and all of the other ones that are around that layer. Now the list looks like this. 250 small construction companies in Australia are using Xero. The problem is that it tells you what a company looks like, but nothing about whether they are actually willing to pull out their wallet and spend money to fix the problem. You are guessing that a company who looks like a buyer will behave like a buyer, but unfortunately most of them don't. Now the second layer is intent. Now tools like Bumbora and 6sense try to surface this. Has this company actually been searching for terms related to your offer in the last 30 days? Now, this is better than firmographics, but it's expensive to do, and the signals are noisy, and most small businesses don't produce enough digital exhaust to register on any of these intent platforms. The third layer is the trigger. Now, a trigger is a public action a company has taken that signals that they are about to spend money on that exact problem that you solve, such as hiring posts are the strongest trigger, for example, in the entire B2B world for AI automation, because hiring is the most expensive decision a small business can make outside of buying inventory or property. Now, when a company posts a job listing, they're not researching, they're formally committing to spending tens of thousands of dollars to fix a specific problem. Now, most agencies are competing for attention at the firmographic layer at the very top of the pyramid, just to visualize it. And it gets bigger and the funnel gets wider the further down you go. And everyone's up here, which you're competing for the same small pool of data. Now, the companies that are actually signaling, are they actually buying, are down here at the signaling layer. That is the entire arbitrage. So, not every single job listing is a buying signal. Most of them aren't. But the job is to know which roles map to the AI automation cases that you can actually build and solve. And these are the 4 that work consistently. The first is my favorite, which is the office admin or office manager position. This, if you guys are starting out, this is like printing money bags, and it's so easy to do. The job description will look something a little bit like this: processing inbound email, sending invoices, booking appointments, updating spreadsheets, chasing approvals, and reconciling data between 2 systems. Now, 80% of that role is structured, repetitive, and replaceable. And they're about to spend 50 to 70 grand a year on the same workflow or workflows that you can automate for a fraction of the cost as a one-off fee. Now, the second is the operations manager. Now, the highest value listing on the entire job board for an AI automation agency, and almost nobody targets it. Now, the brief is to literally introduce a structure, processes, and tooling to a business that has outgrown its current way of working. The person they are hiring is your buyer. If you can get to the founder before the role gets filled, you can position yourself as either the replacement for the role or a force multiplier for whoever they hire. The third one is a bookkeeper or an accounts admin. So this is more for the financial side, like invoice processing, reconciliation, AR and AP follow-ups, expense categorization. Now, canonical AI automation use cases that any operator with Smart Lead Make or N8N experience can build with inside of a week, tops. Now, the pitch is literally the job description as well, but delivered as a software for a tenth of the annual cost. And the fourth and final one is the sales admin or sales coordinator. And this is also mundane stuff like CRM data entry, lead scoring and qualification, follow-up scheduling, sales report compilation, and ICP list building. Now, I almost have to laugh when I read this list because the amount of times I've automated this for not only construction companies, but other staffing and recruitment guys as well is like mind-boggling to me. If anyone you know is doing like data entry in 2026, like they are stupid. Like, think about all of this. Like, this is like an easy automation to build. That's an easy automation. This is easy to automate. This, like, if you've watched the videos on the channel, like, this is clay. But if you watch the video I'm going to pump out in within the week, I'm actually automating my entire cold email process from all the way from getting the leads all the way to actually setting them up in Smart Lead, where we're actually cutting clay out of this entire equation. So stay tuned for that. But essentially, currently based on the tools that we've talked about on the channel, you can easily do qualification via clay. So that'll take you like 10 minutes, and you can even set that up with an automation as well. So every task is something an AI workflow can handle better than a junior hire, and the buyer is usually a sales manager or founder already filling the bottleneck. Now, other roles occasionally produce buyers, don't get me wrong, such as marketing coordinator, scheduler for the back office customer service stuff. Stick to the four that I've listed above, where the volume is high and the use cases map incredibly cleanly. So why does this work specifically for AI automation? Now, it works in a way that it does for not many other agency services, but the reason why it does matters the most. Now, AI automation is a labor replacement product. We're going to keep harping on about this. If you've watched any of the videos that I've done about like why I've been able to sign these crazy high deals, it's because of this three-letter phrase here, labor replacement product. Every other thing an agency might sell, whether it be paid ads, web design, SEO, content, branding, is a growth product. Now, growth products are sold against an opportunity cost, and labor replacement products are sold against a real cost that is already on their books. That distinction changes everything about how you find buyers and about how they perceive you and your offer. For a growth product, your buyer is anybody who could plausibly want more revenue. That is essentially every business on earth, right? Which is why growth product agencies have to compete on positioning, brand, and offer. However, for a labor replacement product, your buyer is specifically someone who has identified a labor cost that they want to reduce that is much smaller, much more specific, or a much more specific universe. And your job pool just went into something very tiny and much more completable. Now, the job listing is the cleanest possible signal that a company has identified that exact thing. They've written down the role, the responsibilities, the salary range they're willing to pay, and the start date that they want. You can read all of it in their own words before you even send the first email. The opener writes itself. You reference the specific role they posted, you reference the part of the role that is automatable, and you quote a price that is a fraction of the salary that they are about to commit to. Now, this is the other thing before we go on as well. When we're speaking about a fraction of the salary, you need to think about it, and this is why I always get Claude Claude Artifacts to spin up this quick graph. It's compound calculator graph. It's very simple, but it like does most of the selling for you. If you have like year one on a graph, which is why this is how you can charge more, by the way, particularly as a one-time build fee, and you've got like year 5 over here, and they're selling, if you put like, that's on the x-axis, but if on the y you've put like their salary of like 80 grand. I can't draw with this mouse, whoops. If you've got 80 here, right, and you start here, that literally exponentially increases between years 1 to 5. Why? Because it should be, or at least with my 12.7K case study that I did for a landscaping company, it was a 6x in year 1 with my fee included. And then as soon as that's deducted from year 2 onwards, that's when you see the shoot up really start to happen because they're not having to deduct that 10 to 20 grand fee. Now, this is why you can charge more. If you actually lay it out like this and the client sees the graphic with their own eyes and sees how much they're saving over just say a 5-year timeline, for example, you can charge way more, particularly because yours is a one-time build fee. Now, obviously, you can start to introduce retainers the more experience and case studies you have, but particularly as a one-time build fee, it's much easier to justify higher prices when you can show them this graph visually, and particularly when they're not deducting your fee from here onwards, it becomes much more compelling. Now, reply rates on this kind of email are dramatically higher than anything you could get from any firmographic list because you're not pitching a category, you're pitching the exact thing they are currently shopping for. Now, the pricing angle that nobody's talking about, and particularly the implications of pricing of this targeting strategy, are even bigger than the strategy or the targeting itself. Now, when you reach out to a company who's not actively trying to solve a problem, The conversation in their head is, should we solve this at all? And they're going back and forth with themselves. But the answer most of the time is no, because the cost of an action is visible and the cost of action is real. Now, this is why most cold email replies stall after the first positive response. A new video is coming about how to get around that as well, so stay tuned. The buyer was open to a conversation but never able to close on a decision. Now, when you reach out to a company who has just posted a job listing, the conversation is completely different. Why? Because it's basically saying, we should solve this with a person or a system. They've already decided that they're willing to spend money. If you remember back to the last video, if you think about the graph to get you from 0 to 100, 0 to 60 is like this step here. They've already decided that they have a problem, is 0 to 60. 0 to 80 is that they're willing to spend money to fix it. And that's literally this step here. They've done like all the heavy lifting for you. Then they've already accepted that there's a real problem worth fixing, and the only thing left to negotiate is which solution gets the budget. Now, the shift is the single biggest determinant of price selling in B2B services. If you're competing against the status quo of doing nothing, your price ceiling is whatever the buyer would happily lose, usually a couple $1,000s at most. Now, if you're competing against a $60,000 hire, your price ceiling is anything below 60 grand that delivers the same outcome. The math suddenly works out for 5, 10, 15, even 20 grand builds. Why? Because the buyer is comparing your number to a salary, not to zero, and not to mention that it's a one-time build fee, and your solution doesn't need sick leave, doesn't need all the other packages that employees get, and also the fact that they're not efficient most of the time anyway. They're on their phone and doing God knows what. Now, this is why the hiring signal lead list closes deals at 5 figures price points consistently, while the firmographic lead list closes deals at like 3 to low 4 figures. Now, the same operator has the same unit and the same fulfillment, but the difference is the buyer mindset, and all of that changes because of that infographic or the firmographic lead list. Now, why most agencies miss this is because no AI automation agency is doing the entire cold email training. Why? Because the industry is built on this stupid SaaS era playbook that doesn't apply to labor replacement products. The SaaS cold email playbook says, define an ICP, build a firmographic list of companies that fit the profile, send personalized emails at scale, blah, blah, blah. You've heard all this before. Now, that worked for SaaS companies because SaaS companies in particular sold to people who fit a certain category. The buyer of the HR software is anyone with employees. The buyer of the CRM software is anyone with sales. Category level targeting works because the product is so broad. However, with AI automation, it's not a broad product. It's very specific. And it's sold to a company who has a specific manual workflow in particular that they want to remove or compress currently, right now. Now, the category level targeting fails because most companies in any given category don't have an active workflow problem that they're willing to spend on this quarter. Now, you can hit all of this with a beautifully written email, and most of them will reply with something of interest, but not right now, which is probably the most common thing you guys see who are running cold email campaigns currently. Now, the agencies doing this well have figured out that AI automation is a trigger-based sale, not a category-based sale. They're not building bigger lists, they're building smaller, sharper, more qualified lists where every single account on the list is actively, publicly, and expensively trying to solve the exact problem that they sell. The agencies that aren't doing this well are the ones still copying this stupid SaaS playbook from 2019. Now, what I would say to someone who's spending $500 on a polo right now is that they should be just stop that. Now, build a firmographic list of small businesses in your niche. Is what someone's like, oh, I'm going to get started. Let me do that. Don't do that. Take half the money that you would have spent on that and spend it on whatever scraping setup you prefer for the job boards your buyers most likely posting. Now, for example, in Australia, that's Seek and Indeed. Now, I know in the US you have Indeed as well, but you don't have Seek and any other sort of job boards that you have over there. Now, in most countries, LinkedIn jobs also work as well, but they are harder to scrape cleanly. So pick one specific role that you're trying to target from the list above that maps to an automation that you can actually build and make it quick. Make it like a week max. It should take you to build, ideally a couple of days. Pick a geography that matches your fulfillment capacity as well. Now run the scrape for 1 month and see how many listings you find. The list will be smaller than an Apollo list. You might end up with 80 to 250 active listings instead of 5,000 firmographic accounts. This isn't a problem. It's actually the whole point of this. Every single one of those companies is actively spending money on the problem you solve this week. Write an opener that references, I'm just going to preface this because you guys are smart. You already know this already. Use AI to help you. We're in 2026. We don't need to be doing anything manually by hand. But get AI to write an opener that references a specific role they posted. Reference the part of the role that is automatable. Quote a price that it's a fraction of the annual salary that they're about to commit to. Send the campaign through whatever cold email infrastructure you already have set up, whether it's Smart Lead or Instantly. And the reply rates will be 3 to 5 times higher than your firmographic campaigns. Now, your close rates will be higher again also. Why? Because the price comparison is no longer your offer versus zero. It's your offer versus a salary that they've already mentally committed to. The deals you'll close will be 5 figures instead of 3 to 4 or low 4 figures, because that's what the labor cost ceiling supports. This is one of those rare strategy shifts that changes your apply rate entirely, and your close rate and your average deal size at the same time, with the same operator and the same offer. Now, this is the checklist that you guys should be going through before you start running an AI cold email campaign. Have I picked one specific role to target, not some generic persona? Have I picked a geography that matches my fulfillment capacity? Do I have a way to scrape those leads like Seek, Indeed, or LinkedIn job postings reliably and on a recurring basis? For each company on my list, do I have the actual posted role and the rough salary in my notes? Does my opener reference the specific role that they posted, not their company in general? And have I priced my offer against the annual salary cost of the role, not against some generic build fee? Now, if you answer yes to all 6 of these, your campaign is ready to go. The replies will be different, the deals will be bigger though, and the strategy isn't complicated. The reason why it works is because almost nobody's thinking like this. So, in summary of all of that, stop building lists for companies that look like buyers, start building lists of companies that are specifically behaving like buyers. The job boards are like the dead easiest giveaway and the highest signal lead source in the entire AI automation space. The data is free and the intent is unambiguous. They're literally saying or writing all over their forehead saying, I need someone to help me with X problem. The pricing ceiling is set by an annual salary, not by a guess. So, firstly, pick the role, then scrape the listings, then reference the job posted and price against the salary and send your email. That's literally the entire process in a couple of sentences. 3 figure deals turn into 5 figure deals when the buyer was already going to spend that money anyway. So if you're a business owner and you need more clients, that's what we do. We run Done For You cold email. Our campaigns are hitting 22% positive reply rates right now. If you want us to do the same for your business, the link to apply is in the description below. And make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss day 2, which is tomorrow's video, where we're actually going to be building out this fire crawl tool. And I'll see you in tomorrow's video.